Hi everyone, and welcome to the Prompt Engineering Workshop. Today we've got a lot of tools, tips, and tricks, as well as resources to get the best out of your large language models. So what are we going to cover today? We'll give an introduction and some objectives. We'll go over to the basics of prompt engineering, and then we'll finally go over effective prompting techniques with resources at the end. I've got a handout that I'll put in the notes below. So introduction and objective. So what is and why use prompt engineering? Prompt engineering is a way of structuring your language to interface with large language models to get the best out of them. So that's answering both questions in one. But in order to understand how to structure a language, you do need to know a little bit about the AI model. So we'll talk about those. Then we'll talk about prompting key concepts and some new ways you can potentially use prompt engineering in 2024 that didn't exist over the last few years. And in the workshop, then we're going to switch gears and do some prompting. So why prompt engineering? There's at least 8 ways here. We can maximize the AI's potential, enhance productivity, improve problem solving, make you more adaptable across industries. You can apply prompt engineering to make the AI more customized or creative to your needs, avoiding miscommunication, and also staying competitive while also avoiding or maximizing ethical AI usage. Some very basic information on AI models. Most people think of large language models, but actually there's quite a few other models that are available. And I will add in the notes below information about supervised, unsupervised reinforcement, and transfer models. So I'll pull that up for a second, but really it's all in the PDF that's in the links below. Generative versus conversational models. Actually, now more and more generative and conversational are sort of combining into multimodal models that can actually do both. So ChatGPT also has DALL-E connected to it if you have a subscription. And the differences that's worth noting is that generative can create new data based on patterns, and conversational is basically tuned based off of being trained for conversational purposes. Speaking of which, I want to connect the fact that large language models are predictive and stochastic. What does that mean in terms of prompt engineering? It means that you can ask the large language model using the exact same prompt and get a different answer each time. The better you actually do with your prompt engineering, the more close the response will be tuned to your question. But it's worth noting that large language models are predictive, and so they won't always produce the same answer. The other thing that I wanted to point out is the ethics of large language models. Prompt engineering helps to avoid bias if you do it right, but it also can open to further misinterpretation, and sometimes what will come out is just based on the way the model was trained. So this is something to be aware of and to be cautious of. Not to mention, what the AI has been trained on is usually a black box. You do not always know exactly what's inside the AI. Double check, especially because they also have been known to hallucinate. Okay, let's move on. This image is from Understanding Prompt Engineering Fundamentals. It's a Microsoft course. I put it in the reference links. Basically, what we want to learn is that we generate prompts. It goes through a large language model and it generates a response. Now, what we want to do is understand this process a bit more. It goes in, there's a model prompt, there's a retrieval augmented generation, there's also a chat history that combines all with the system context, model parameters, and what it's trained on. Now, understanding the context of this can help a little bit, as well as things like tokens. And so I put some extra vocabulary words in the handout. Okay, let's talk about the basics of prompt engineering. While the other stuff that I've been bringing up is a little bit technical and new to many people, the basics of prompt engineering highly relates to communication theory. How so? A key is clarity, context, purpose, and adaptability. Essentially, if you are very clear with your prompts, you provide context to the AI, you let the AI know the purpose of your prompt, and also what is the output geared towards. So that can be meaning the industry you're in. It could also mean the level of complexity or detail or the difficulty level. So if you're talking to a younger audience or an advanced audience. Switching gears to types of prompts. Ultimately, there are 3 basic types of prompts, and then we'll get into a lot of different strategies and prompting techniques. But really, there's instructional, conversational prompts that are iterative, and explorative prompts. The instructional prompts perform certain specific tasks. Conversational prompts will guide interactions with the conversational flow. And what I recommend is really pursuing an iterative workflow. Finally, explorative, you really want to have open-ended questions as part of your prompt workflow, including a final prompt that asks the AI, are there additional questions that I should have been asking that I may have forgotten? Basic prompting workflow. I'm going to share with you resources that will have over 18 methodologies. However, you can really boil down the process of a prompting workflow into 6 steps. What are they? First, you can have the AI adopt a persona or multiple personas you can have related to the topic that you want to pursue. Next, provide context, examples, and also constraints. Then you can think about ways of splitting specifically a complex task into subtasks. There's also a technique called chain of thought prompting, which will go through multiple iterations. That is the next step, which is iterate. You make sure that you ask multiple ways, you ask it multiple times, and you're going to get much better results. Finally, ask open-ended questions, and related to that, ask the AI, what questions should I be asking? And you're going to get a much better set of iterative process that you can use with your prompt engineering. What are some of the new things you might integrate into your prompt engineering as of 2024? We have new interfaces that are available in OpenAI. There's an interface called Canvas that's in beta. There's a voice interface, and other interfaces like Notebook LM are starting to use AIs in ways that are specifically geared towards like research or that will only respond on information that you train. Think about how those could be connected to your prompts and how it might actually nudge you in different directions, whether it's good or bad. Okay, you can use a multi-thread technique that I use with ChatGPT, and also Claude AI has different projects. So you can have multiple questions that are similar but related in a project in Claude, and then ChatGPT now has Canvas that can do that. You can also tune different personas, like I mentioned. Specifically, you could have one persona on a thread be specifically a research persona. You could say, I want you to be a very creative persona, and then ask it similar questions and see how that specific persona will return different answers. Finally, in a future video, I'm going to go over how you can sometimes clear out the memory or add custom instructions to your overall set of prompts. I do this in ChatGPT, and it has streamlined some of my workflows. Okay, finally, I've got a bunch of resources. This Learn Prompting website has had over 3 million subscribers as of this date. There's this prompt engineering guide. All of these links will be included in the PDF, as well as this different methodologies that you can find here. Make sure you open up the prompt engineering worksheet and resources. Click on the worksheet activities for 2 activities to try out yourself. Here's a list of AIs that you can use to practice. Here's the 6 steps that we went over in the tutorials. And there's also the learning resources where you can take it further. And finally, here's some examples of good prompts and bad prompts that I included as a little bonus towards the end. All right, so make sure you give the video a like, subscribe for more AI weekly content, and we'll see you next week.